So now we start the third part of the Great Cosmic Mother, which is women's culture and religion in Neolithic times. In chapter 15 represents the first of these chapters, which is the first settled villages. The Neolithic Revolution, occurring circa 10,000 BC, was the creation of women. Through the long generations of human evolution, it was the females who had dug the earth for food, gathering roots and grasses, wild grains and berries to be used for nourishment, medicine, and clothing fibers. Women were skilled observers of plant nature, passing on from generation to generation their knowledge of food, medical, toxic, and mind-changing properties of the wild plants, fungi, and herbs in their environment. And it was women who had a special relation to the earth, as daughters related to the body of the Great Mother. Where groups of women and children settled, culture took root, growing slowly into Neolithic villages. During the Paleolithic or Stone Age, the centers of the cave culture that we know of were in Western and Southern Europe. As the last glaciers receded and human migration increased, centers of human culture shifted to the moist and fertile valleys of the Near East, where the first systematic cultivation of grain occurred. Wild wheat and emmer grew there. Water conditions were good, and there were wild goats to be domesticated. By 7000 BC, agriculture was well established in Jordan, Iran, and Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. These Stone Age people were matriarchal and goddess worshippers. They entered Anatolia and the Near East via Thrace, the Balkans. There were three centers of settled agriculture in the Near East. On the western slopes of the valleys of the Zagros Mountains, where the Tigris empties into the Persian Gulf, in the hill country of the Turkish Syrian Mesopotamia, and on the South Anatolian plain, now Western Turkey. Some of the oldest known settlements, the oldest known grain sickle, have been found in the area of Palestine. These are remains of the Natufian Neolithic culture, which lasted circa 6000 BC. The people of the most ancient city of Tel es Sultan, now Jericho, practiced a cult of skulls and buried their dead deep in pits under the floors of their houses. The first layer of the city dates from 8000 to 7000 BC and was built in the shape of the crescent moon. At its earliest levels, the culture seems very advanced. The houses were built in beehive shape, constructed with sun-dried clay bricks. Floors were sunk into the earth and strewn with sand and covered with clay. Timber was also used in construction. Remains of a wooden staircase have been found. The city is surrounded by an 18-foot-high wall of regularly shaped stones, and this is surrounded by a protecting ditch or moat of 27 feet wide, cut 9 feet deep into the solid rock. Architecture and building techniques at Tel es Sultan are at least as advanced as those of medieval European fortresses. The strange thing is that no tools for cutting such huge stone blocks, no axes, picks, chisels have been found. In the rooms of all the houses were found images of the goddess. Jericho is founded at the site of the sacred spring, and the original structure beneath many layers of debris from the later buildings has been identified as a shrine to the local spirit. Successive cities were built around the same sacred place, the spirit of which became the founding deity. She received the sacrifices offered by the settlers, perhaps in expiation for using the earth body in this new agricultural way. She gave the law by which the city was governed. Implicit in this law was a contract between humans and the goddess. The people permitted a conditional use of the land for farming and building in return for observances paid to the goddess. The next oldest settlement in the area dates from 6500 BC. These people built triangular houses with rooms more than 21 feet and 12 feet wide around a courtyard with a central hearth. The bricks were given a plaster coating, and there were no corners or broken lines in this architecture. The walls are gently curved, molded by hand, as the Pueblo houses of the American Southwest are still hand adobeed today by the women. The walls were painted red or yellow and were highly varnished. These houses had drains. Spindle whorls and loom weights were found in the ruins, but no traces of pottery. The women used stone vessels. A chapel has been found containing a stone menhir, a carved stone pillar with an oval point and breast representing the great goddess. The best known of these Anatolian cities is Çatalhöyük, excavated by James Mellart in the 1960s. This complex town, a ceremonial center for the goddess religion, flowered between 6500 and 5650 BC. Çatalhöyük was very large for its day, 30 to 35 acres in extent. 12 successive layers have been excavated, and no signs of warfare or weaponry have been found. There are also no signs of animal slaughter within the town, though there are murals depicting the old ritual of the hunt. The people were peaceful agriculturalists, mostly vegetarian. Çatalhöyük was situated near the obsidian trade routes and was a major trading center for grains and probably also religious icons. Women's skills as gardeners and agriculturalists are manifest here. The presence of numerous querns, motors, pounders, grinders, storage pit, and sickle blades shows a growing abundance of food. And burial sites containing luxury objects indicate a surplus of goods and therefore trade. There are many obsidian objects and cowrie shells, goddess symbols from coastal regions. At Çatalhöyük, the most honored burials were of women and children. Before burial, bodies were exposed so their bones could be picked clean by vultures, the sacred bird of the death goddess. Women and children were buried in central graves directly under the sleeping platforms inside the houses, with the signs of ritual, respect, and love, amulets and icons, obsidian mirrors and toys buried with them. Men were buried in smaller corner sites, never with children, and with their Stone Age hunt weapons. The whole town seems to have been dedicated to the Great Mother religion and to religious artisanry. At least 40 shrines have been found in Çatalhöyük, all of the goddess. Murals on temple walls show shaman women as vultures. Women's breasts are molded in relief on shrine walls, surmounted by cow horns, surrounded by imprints of human hands, the same handprints found throughout Paleolithic caves. Here the great goddess is shown in mural images and structures in her triple aspect, as a young woman, a mother giving birth, and an old woman or crone, accompanied by a vulture. These are the three phases of the moon: waxing, full, and waning. Çatalhöyük was also built over a sacred well, and this site is designed in coordination with the natural and cosmic laws, the lines and centers of the Earth's energies, and the positions of the stars. To build at a place was to share the life of that place. It was an organic and spiritual location. Earliest agriculture must have grown up around the shrines of the Great Mother, which were social and trade centers as well as holy places. The priestesses of the goddess were also administrators, scribes, and traders. The goddess of the Neolithic became the teacher of planting, harvesting, and storage methods, as well as healer, dispenser, and curative herbs, roots, and plants. Erich Fromm, in The Anatomy of Human Destructiveness, speculates on the meaning of this culture. The fact that among hundreds of skeletons covering at least 800 years of continuous culture, not one shows signs of violent death. The fact that women seem to outnumber men and are buried with greater honor. The fact that the religion of Çatalhöyük, administered by priestesses, stressed the renewing and protecting powers of the Great Mother. He writes, the data that speak in favor of the view that Neolithic society was relatively egalitarian, without hierarchy, exploitation, or market aggression are suggestive. The fact, however, that these Neolithic villages in Anatolia had a matriarchal, matricentric structure adds a great deal more evidence to the hypothesis that Neolithic society, at least in Anatolia, was an essentially unaggressive and peaceful society. The reason for this lies in the spirit of affirmation of life and lack of destructiveness, which J.J. Bachofen believed was an ancestral trait of all matriarchal societies.